Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wisco Whiskey Review. I'm Jeff, and in today's episode, I'm excited because this is something a little bit different. This isn't going to be a traditional whiskey review. As you can see, I've got 4 different whiskeys in front of me. These are specifically bourbons, and what I'm going to do is another whiskey rumble, or that's just a kind of my catchphrase for a blind flight. Now, if you don't know what a blind flight is, that's just where you kind of pit different whiskeys together and you compare them and you find out kind of which one you like. Now, with it being blind, it means that you don't exactly know which one's which. If it was a double blind, I wouldn't know anything at all about these 4 in front of me, but since I know it's going to be one of 4 specific whiskeys, this is just a regular blind flight. So that kind of explains this. I guess to explain the whiskeys here before I get into it, what's special about this is that all 4 of these are from the same distiller, being Buffalo Trace. But the thing that's different, I guess the twist, is that one of these is Buffalo Trace Standard Bourbon, so that's their flagship standard offering. And then one of these is going to be the same thing, but a store pick. Now, to explain what a store pick is, just so that I'm not confusing anyone, if you don't know that term just means that one specific store or a group either went to Buffalo Trace and tasted several barrels and picked a specific barrel to have that bottled for the specific store, or they were sent samples of different barrels and then they chose one specific barrel to have bottled for that specific store. Now, store picks are pretty common. Most of your liquor stores, your grocery stores, they're gonna try to have some store pick program of some kind. And almost every distiller, or at least larger distiller, does it. So it's not uncommon to see store picks of completely different bourbons or whiskeys. I don't know if Scotch necessarily does it, or if it's more of a bourbon thing, but bourbon is pretty common to do store picks. So that's what that is. A third whiskey in this is going to be Eagle Rare. Now, that's also distilled by Buffalo Trace, and the 4th one is going to be a store pick of Eagle Rare. So essentially what you have are 4 bourbons, all distilled at the same place by the same distillery. They're all the same exact ABV, which is 45, so it comes in at 90 proof. And it's just interesting, they're all the same mash bill too. Buffalo Trace has 3 different mash bills technically, at least with the bourbon side of things. They've got mash bill 1, which is a lower rye mash bill. Now, it's undisclosed at this point, but it's believed to be 10% rye or less, meaning that, again, it's going to be mostly corn with some malted barley and 10% or less of rye. They also have a mash bill number 2, which is going to be, I forget all the different brand extensions that falls into, but that's going to be a little bit higher rye. I believe it's 12 to 15, maybe a little bit more than that. Again, it's undisclosed, so only select people know. But that's going to be their mash bill 2, and then they've got a wheated mash bill, which, again, with that one, it's going to be bourbon, so 51% corn or more, but then wheat is going to be the second most dominant grain in that mash bill. So those are their 3 main bourbon mash bills. They make rye and stuff like that too, but those are going to be different. So these are all mash bill number 1. Again, the George T. Stagg is, and Stagg Jr. are also mash bill number 1. I believe Ancient Age is also mash bill number 1. Buffalo Trace has a ton of different whiskeys and bourbons in their portfolio, so it's crazy that they only have a couple different mash bills that a lot of these fall under. But the main difference between the flavors then is going to come down to which barrel it was in, as far as which warehouse, and then the aging process too. Now, again, as I mentioned, all of these are 45% ABV. The main difference between Buffalo Trace, their standard bottle, and the Eagle Rare is going to be the age. Eagle Rare still has a 10-year age statement on it, so that means that all of the whiskey in these bottles, they're going to be at least 10 years old or older. Now, with Buffalo Trace, their standard bottle, it's going to be non-age stated, so we don't know the exact age of every single bourbon that was blended into these, but we do know that it's got to be at least 4 years old because it's a straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey, and if it was less than 4 years old, they'd have to put that age statement on the bottle. These don't have an age statement, so we know it's at least 4 years. I would guess that these are probably between that 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 year range, with some different ages thrown in there. To get into just a super brief history, again, of Buffalo Trace, it was bought in 1992 by the Sazerac Company, and that's a very large but family-owned beverage company, or it's just a company that owns a lot of different beverage brands, a lot of different whiskey brands. Before that, it was known by a ton of different names. It's gone through a bunch of different name changes. It goes all the way back to even before Kentucky was a ratified state. So it has a really long history. It's the most awarded, at least bourbon brand in the country as of right now. It's a huge operation. My fiance Jessica and I actually had the pleasure of visiting the distillery back in 2019 when you could still safely go out and do things. And it was just a fantastic experience. The tour was free. They've got lots of different samples at the end. The gift store is really cool. All of the people working there were super nice. It's just a really cool distillery to see, especially if you like history, if you like bourbon. I can't recommend it enough to go on the tour and check that out. So that's kind of just a super quick, brief rundown on Buffalo Trace. They're located in Frankfort, Kentucky, along the banks of the Kentucky River. So that's kind of, how they got started. The name Buffalo Trace just refers to an old ancient buffalo trail that they would use to cross the Kentucky River. As I mentioned, the distillery is pretty much right on the banks of the river. So the buffalo, used to cross the river at a certain point, hence Buffalo Trace. So now that I've kind of gone over everything, hopefully I've explained, the 4 whiskeys we got here, what I'm doing. Again, I don't know what each of these 4 are, but I do know that, each one of these 4 is going to be one of these 4 whiskeys, and that's all I know. So what I'm going to do is I won't grade these necessarily, but I'm just going to nose and taste each one and kind of just give a really quick snapshot of my thoughts, and then I'm just going to rank them from my favorite to least favorite. And my whole goal of this is to see if the single barrel, program or single barrel bottles, if they taste better. And as a disclaimer, again, any of these opinions, are my own. They're not going to reflect a whole bunch of opinions. You can't really make a blanket statement based off of anything I say here. This was kind of just a fun thing for me to do, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So as a single barrel, you hope that it's really good. You hope that it's better than the standard offering, because the standard offerings are going to be blended by the distillery to kind of meet a certain profile, so that if you buy, let's say an Eagle Rare in Florida, it's going to be the same Eagle Rare that you buy in New York, in Texas, in California, wherever you go to get that. They're going to try to hit a certain flavor profile every single time, and the blenders and the master blenders, or the people that do that, are really good at fine-tuning all the different barrels together to get that. Now, single barrels are fun because you can get a bottle that's way off profile from their standard bottling, and that's just really fun to see what kind of flavors you can get. So to kind of go over where these are from, again, this is a standard Buffalo Trace. This is going to be the store pick Buffalo Trace. This comes from Cowley's Piggly Wiggly here in southern Wisconsin. So this is kind of a local pick here. This one is the standard Eagle Rare. And then this was actually, again, kind of a special bottle that we happened to, when we were down in Kentucky, as I mentioned, we visited the distillery, Buffalo Trace. We stayed in a town called Somerset, and this one came from a liquor store in Somerset called Apple Liquors. Now, this is the first Eagle Rare store pick I've ever seen. I know that those are fairly rare, hence the name. But Eagle Rare in general is just harder to come by nowadays. I think for the price, and again, I won't go into the value, but all of these are great value bottles in my opinion. Eagle Rare is going to be around that like $30 range. Buffalo Trace, probably you're looking closer to $23 to $25. Again, this all depends on where you live, the region, allocation, and all that. But even regular Buffalo Trace has become hard to find. Everything Buffalo Trace pretty much makes at this point, or distills, has become, kind of this hyped up thing where a lot of it has become allocated, unfortunately. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that their whiskey's better, it just means that it's more sought after. Anything that gets a big name, they're pumping out a lot of whiskey, but it's just everyone's looking for it. So if everyone buys it all up, no one has it, you get that FOMO. Without further ado, let's get into these here. We'll start with letter A. I believe these are in order. I had my lovely fiance Jessica pour these for me. So this is B, C, and D, yeah. And I'd also like to give a shout out to her brother Michael, my soon-to-be brother-in-law, for making me 4 sets of these flight boards. These are made from old recovered barn wood that his neighbor actually was tearing down a barn. He got these. He knew that I do these videos and that I was a whiskey fan, so he made these for me, and these are awesome. Can't thank him enough for that. So let's go with A here. I'm gonna drink some water just to kind of cleanse my palate here a little bit. All right, so starting with A. So I'm gonna try to get into this. I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna pick up a lot more once I start tasting. From the nose, I'm getting just a lot of your stereotypical bourbon notes, your caramel, vanilla, butterscotch, toffee, a little bit of baking spice. Let's see. I mean, it's a pleasant nose. It's been a while since I've had Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare, so I'm hoping that that kind of gives me a fresh, clean slate to grade these off of here. All right, so again, it's pleasant. A lot of people kind of give Buffalo Trace the quintessential bourbon title. So it's just a very good beginner bourbon. It's a very good kind of daily sipper. Again, if you can find it in your area. Yeah, that's really good. This first sip, I'm getting just a lot of kind of fresh orchard fruit, like a lot of apple, a lot of caramel, vanilla. Now, theoretically, the Eagle Rares being 10 years old or more should have a little bit more of that barrel oak flavor, or the tannins going on. So that might be something to look for. I think that's going to be maybe the only thing that's going to set these very apart from the Buffalo Trace. Because like I said, that's really one of the only few differences is going to be the age on these things. Everything else, the mash bill, the ABV, distillery, everything's going to be the same. So the warehouse location and the age is going to be pretty much the two biggest determining factors here of the differences between these. That's why I thought this would be fun and also challenging, because these are probably going to be very similar, but hopefully different enough where I can kind of pick out some favorites here. Yeah, I'm getting a very nice caramel green apple note on this A, which I really like. All right, let's go on to B. Again, I'll try to take a swig of water in between all these just to kind of reset. All right, on to B. All right, so from A to B, there's a definite difference in the nose. This one I'm getting like a little bit kind of more bright floral of a nose than I was getting with A. I mean, it's also very sweet, very caramel. I'm gonna just kind of skip the vanilla caramel, those two, because I'm gonna find those in probably in all 4 of these. That's a very common, easy bourbon note to pick out. So unless I don't find those in all of these 4, you can just assume that vanilla and caramel are going to be kind of in the bill on these. There's a little bit more baking spice to this one than I was picking up on A. Let's give it a taste here. So again, I'm not going to try to guess what these are. That's not really the point of this. I'm going to try to keep that in the back of my head as far as not trying to guess what these are. But this one does tend to have just a little bit more of the spice. What my brain, my tongue, my nose is picking up as oak. Getting a little bit more of that on this one. But again, these are probably going to be very similar, so this is going to be challenging. Yeah, to me this one tastes a little bit more subdued. It tastes like there might be a little bit more age on there. I'm probably going to be putting my foot in my mouth on this, trying to do this. It's been a while since I've done a flight like this, so hopefully my palate's up to it. Yeah, I'm getting just a nice balance here. There is more spice, I think, on this one than there was with A. It's hard right now. I think I prefer this one over this one as of right now. But again, what I'm going to do is probably go A to D, D back through A real quick, and then just kind of A-B compare them if, you know, if there's any outliers or if there's any that I don't know, like, you know, say A to C, having back to back. Having back to back can really change the taste and the nose. You know, let's say A to D versus B to D. That can be a very big difference, what you have before and how it affects the one you're having presently. All right, so let's go to C. Now normally I'd also be having some crackers to maybe reset my palate. I'm just going to stick with water for right now because that's what I have on hand. Ooh, now C has a much different nose. And it's crazy just how different these can be, and I'm glad that I am finding differences in them, because otherwise this would be a lot harder, I think. C seems to have a little bit more kind of that like honey, almost like a honey pecan thing going on in the nose, which I really like. There's a little bit more of that fruit that kind of reminded me of A on there, but this one I think is the sweetest so far on the nose. I mean, I don't think, none of these are going to be bad. I like Buffalo Trace. I've had, you know, several bottles of the standard offering. I believe this is the first store pick I've ever had, a Buffalo Trace, and I've never actually, I just opened the store pick of the Eagle Rare. I was kind of waiting to do that, so I felt this was a good enough occasion to do that. But I've never had a store pick Eagle Rare, but I have had a couple bottles of the standard offering. Let's go in for the taste on C here. To me, this one has almost even a little bit more kind of that oak barrel flavor than B did. This is going to be really tough to determine between these four, because there are some differences on the nose, but I don't know, this is hard. Yeah, I think I'm getting a lot more of that baking spice showing up on C than in either A or B so far. It's kind of ramping up from A to C with that baking spice, that kind of oak tannin thing going on. C is really good too. And again, you know, if you can access both of these bottles and you're wondering what the difference is between the two, that's been my experience so far, is that Buffalo Trace has kind of more of that, I'd say fruitier, kind of sweeter caramel apple thing going on. You know, and it does taste like a little bit younger of a bourbon. Again, it's not super young by any means. And then the Eagle Rare is kind of more of like kind of more of a wine note to it. It's got that barrel. It has, you know, the age, which gives it just a little bit more, I don't want to use the word mellow because that's not right, but kind of just a more subdued, kind of rounded out palate and mouthfeel to it, if that makes any sense. So C was really good. Let's go to B. I'm sorry, let's go to D. Now D kind of has a little bit, again, brighter of a kind of a nose to it. It's got, again, maybe a little bit younger of I don't want to say harsh, because it's not really harsh. None of these are really giving off a huge ethanol hit or burn to them at all. You know, 45% is still fairly low, at least to me. You know, anything, I'd say under that 100 proof is, to me, pretty easily drinkable. So. But D is reminding me a little bit more of A as far as like that kind of bright, like orchard fruit, a little bit floral too. See, I like the nose on D a lot. I don't know if the palate is really giving me as much as the nose did. Like I said, you know, it's got a lot of the same things that these all have going for them. It's got the fruit, the baking spice, a little bit of the caramel apple, but not quite as much as A had on it. I mean, that one's really good too. All right, let me drink some water, and then I'm gonna start at D again and kind of work my way back through A. All right, so I'll go with D again here. And what I'll do this time is kind of compare the two of them here. Yeah, and this is actually a really good exercise if, you know, even at home, if you're looking to just even if you know what they are, if you know exactly what's in the two different glasses, again, it doesn't have to be Glencairn, but that just helps me pick out noses and flavors better. But if you have two side by side and you kind of nose them and you taste them side by side, one after the other, that's a really good way of just comparing two or more different whiskeys and kind of really pick out certain notes, again, that you might not be able to just if you have it by its own. It's just a really good experience. It's really fun to me and for other people. And I think that's the best way to really explore what you like in whiskeys and which ones you may like over others. Yeah, to me, I think C has a little bit more of kind of that oakiness to it. Let's try D and C back to back. Like I said before, this is tough. This is probably going to be one of the most challenging flights that I'll ever do, just because of how close everything is on this. Again, same distiller, same mash bill, same proof. There's really nothing that's really going to give these away. Like I said, sometimes the proof can be different, or there's going to be a different mash bill. There's going to be tons of different flavors going on that'll kind of at least let you hint at which one you might like better, but these are all pretty close so far. All right, let's go C to B. So with B, I'm getting a little bit more of like a butterscotch kind of sweetness that I wasn't getting when I was coming from A to D the first time around. And it could just be that C has a little bit just more oak and kind of depth to it than B does. Yeah, there's a little bit more sweetness now going on with B that I really like. Yeah, there's more sweetness going on now. There's like a butterscotch toffee, kind of like a cinnamon apple thing going on. I'll compare B and A now. I'm almost getting like a vanilla custard on B now. Yeah, and going from B back to A after going through it this way, A has more of like a kind of like a floral grassy note going on. And there's a lot of sugar going on, like a toasted, like a creme brulee going on with A. A is just really good. That might be my favorite so far. Yeah, again, comparing A to B, A has, to me, what seems like a little bit more youth to it, a little bit more like kind of vibrance, because I'm getting a little bit more of the ethanol on A than I was with any of the others, even though all of them have the same proof. So now what I'm gonna do is I'll have some more water. I'll kind of maybe go through, again, like just go back and forth between A and D, A and C, just go in orders that I didn't hit kind of on the down and back. All right, so I think I've made my decisions here. Again, this was so close that I think if I was to do this again tomorrow, I might even pick, different favorites. In fact, I'm probably sure I'd pick a different order. It's just that close. Even though there's different age on these, different barrels, different warehouses, stuff like that, you can tell that these came from the same distillery. There's just lots of, I guess the overall theme is just balance. I was getting enough kind of sweetness, again, that caramel, kind of like a toasted caramel, creme brulee, vanilla custard, mixed with like an orchard fruit, like there's a lot of cherry, a lot of red apple going on. And then there was mixed with a lot of spice too. There's a lot of baking spice, black pepper, a lot of clove, a lot of cinnamon. The closest thing I could probably compare these to are like an apple pie. Or a cherry pie, depending on which red fruit you're getting on. That's kind of what I was getting on a lot of these glasses. I guess we'll start with the fourth place. Again, none of these are last because these are all, in my mind, fantastic bourbons. Last place to me was letter B. Now, this one, I think there was more of a difference in the noses than there were with the flavors in all of these. I don't know if that just means I have a better nose than I do palate as far as, you know, being able to pick out different things, or if that's just where the variations came in. But to me, letter B had just this kind of musty, like a musty grassy note, almost kind of like a upstairs attic kind of thing going on that, you know, again, a lot of people kind of like that musty, dusty thing. And if this is Buffalo Trace, if this isn't the Eagle Rare, it just kind of, you know, might not be the age, but could be just a little bit of like a, just an off quality that, again, some may like, but to me, I didn't quite enjoy as much as the others. So the nose kind of, you know, really nitpicking at this point, but to me, the nose was the worst on letter B. Now let's, instead of going for the reveal first, which I'll probably see all of them, we're just gonna go the order and then I'll do the reveal at the end. So last place, letter B here. Third place to me was letter C. Now, again, letter C also kind of had that like a little bit of a tannin, a little bit more oak to it. I just, as of right now, today in this moment, I kind of like that brighter, sweeter, floral, fruity thing going on. I just kind of like those notes. Could be because right now in Wisconsin, we've got like 5 feet of snow on the ground. And I was looking for just, you know, kind of something more bright, fresh, something like that. So to me, C was third place. Again, it resembled B to me, so we'll see if those are the same two. I'm not sure. But C was third place, also very good. And second place was letter D. Yeah, to me, this one, again, was kind of more of that brighter, kind of shiny fruit. This, I think, tasted and smelled a little more apple than A did. A to me had more of cherries, a little apple. D is almost just straight up apple. Yeah, that's really good. And then obviously in first place, we've got letter A. To me, that one just had kind of the most going on. It had just great overall balance, overall flavors, and kind of what stuck out to me as my favorite. Yeah, that's just like a caramel apple, cherry pie. It's just really good. Now again, you know, they blend their bottles, you know, to get these specific profiles. So they're looking for a very palatable, very approachable profile. So just because it's a store pick doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better than, you know, the go-to tried and true standard bottlings. You could have store picks that are fantastic and that are way above the standard offerings. You could have store picks that just kind of miss the mark as far as what you want in a flavor or a profile. So store picks are, you know, it's kind of rolling the dice, but if you find a store, a liquor store, a grocery store that you really trust, or a group of people that do picks that you really trust, my recommendation is just to find one that your tastes align with their tastes, because then you know if they pick good barrels, then, you know, if you get a pick of theirs, it's probably going to be something you like. So let's go for the reveal now. Got the handy dandy piece of paper. All right, so letter A, being my first place, was the Eagle Rare store pick. Now, that's kind of unfortunate just because that being my favorite, it's going to be something that I'm not going to be able to get again. Unfortunately, you know, it's a store pick from a liquor store in Kentucky. It's just going to be really hard, you know, to have to go down there again and get something of theirs that's a store pick. I'm not going to be there all the time. If, you know, I don't even know if I'm going to be back there anytime soon. So Eagle Rare store pick is my first one. D was second place. D was Eagle Rare. So it's almost counterintuitive to me, and that's why I love doing blind tastings, is because to me A and D stood out as being even a little bit more kind of bright and vibrant flavors, which to me would signify like a little bit younger of a whiskey, whereas B and C had a little bit more mustiness going on to them, which I would associate with being in barrel longer or a little bit longer age. So this is why you do blind picks, because your preconceived notions can just go completely out of the water. You know, what you think you might know or what you think you like based on a brand, especially if you're pairing different brands together, can be just turned on its side, you know, if you blind them and actually find out you like a brand you thought you didn't, or a certain expression you thought you didn't, or even a style you thought you didn't. So second place was the standard Eagle Rare, which again, I've had before. I know I really like it. Even the Buffalo Trace I really like. We'll see what third place was C. So that was the Buffalo Trace store pick from Piggly Wiggly. So my last place actually ended up being B, which was the regular Buffalo Trace. So again, it's kind of weird that this had that, the kind of that musty quality to it. Again, they might be blending some older barrels into regular Buffalo Trace too. Being that they've got tons of different stocks of whiskey, even though there isn't an age statement on it, they could be blending, 8, 9-year whiskeys into regular Buffalo Trace. I don't really know. But, again, these are all so close. I just really had to be super picky, kind of nitpicky about what I wanted to knock as far as, oh, this isn't as good as this one because of X, Y, or Z. This was definitely the hardest flight I've had to do, blind flight, as far as picking out differences. If you can get a store pick, I definitely recommend trying to find a bottle of the standard offering of that pick. Let's say it's a Russell's Reserve pick, get the store pick and then get the the general standard offering of that same exact bottle, and side by side them and see what you think. That's really the only way to know whether or not the store pick you like better or worse than the standard offering. So thank you guys for watching, and let me know if you've done something similar to this before and what your experiences were, because I'm always curious, as a drinker of whiskey, to see what other people's experiences are too. So thanks for watching, guys. Let's go with my first choice, which again was A. We'll go with the Eagle Rare store pick. Hope you had fun, and I'll see you guys next time. Keep on sipping.